ask yourself, here and now, if you believe that purpose is something fixed, something attainable, a destination of sorts. And if you do, just notice. And maybe in that noticing, perhaps there's a thread that starts to unravel as you realize that actually a purpose, your purpose, is your path. And less about the places even that you go through, the people that you meet, the experiences that you have, the things you do attain. That all forms part of the purpose, which is a path, a flowing river. So in this video, we're going to explore that. We're going to explore how your purpose is not something so fixed and measurable and attainable, nor is it necessarily directly tied to how you earn money. Your purpose is something maybe a little more mystical, or less about the exact thing that you're doing, but more about how you show up in the world. And so in fact, perhaps your purpose is you living purposefully in alignment with your authentic self. Not what a lot of self-help and business courses will try to tell you, right? So in this video, we're also going to explore various faces of that, being a more philosophical standpoint, a relational standpoint, how purpose is relational, how there are mystical undertones of it, and also elements of mystery and paradox and the necessary surrender that one needs in order to be able to receive even just the insight that is in alignment with their authentic self, right? So let's hop straight into it, shall we? The whole thing that so much of us have received as conditioning, that being that you've got to go out there, live your best life, and go live your purpose. I mean, heck, maybe even in school you weren't even told that. It was like, here's the list of 10 different things you can be. Pick one, right? So perhaps even purpose wasn't even spoken about at your school. I don't even know if it was in mine. Though the undertone, the meta frame of the entire thing was all in linear time, all in more is more, you got to be the best, even if it wasn't explicitly said, like that's being sub-communicated, right? So we come out of that competing, believing that we need to be better than, need to have more than, otherwise we'll have less than the other, right? Go check out my video, Move from the Competitor to the Creator, where we explore all of that. So I won't go super into that in this video. Though what I do want to highlight is that this whole programming is a hangover, so to speak, from colonialism, white supremacy, and late-stage capitalism. Why? Because the whole premise of even colonialism was one detached from relationship and more about acquiring, dominating, owning, as if you can own our mother, right? Earth. And white, not even necessarily as race, but as an economic standpoint, an economic worldview that needs to be in alignment with capitalism, right? So this whole worldview is very modernist in the sense that it's trying to reduce and separate. It's very reductive. It's like trying to make things that are so actually very multifaceted and non-linear, and trying to make it into some scripted linear thing and then move on next. But purpose isn't like that. You are not like that. You're not a machine. I mean, you're an organic machine. Actually, just a side note, there was this really funny woman that I met at Burning Man, and she was saying how she's like, I am a homo sapien, not a homo techno sapien. I'm like, that's hilarious. I love that. So anyway, I digress. But the point being that this whole premise that purpose is a destination comes from this linear framing that we've received, which has its roots in colonialism, white supremacy, and late stage capitalism. I won't go too much more into that because we've got some stuff to cover, and I'm not like, that's not my lane, so to speak, but it is something that I did feel it is necessary to note. So stemming from that, we have a whole bunch of streams of self-help, of business courses, of models, right, that teach us to view purpose as a destination, right? Something to arrive at, something usually tied to like measurable, quantifiable results, as if your self-actualization journey could be measured by numbers. No, definitely not. That could be part of it, but that's not the totality of it. A lot of these models have these tempting promises that this is the way to your purpose, this is the way to your success, or that, you know, this one thing is your path to enlightenment, or as if it's just a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And not undermining various practices that if you were super devoted and disciplined and it was aligned with your ancestry, with your soul, personal medicine, cool, you could get there. But generally speaking, there is a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. You're told that your purpose is some place that you need to arrive, a certain amount of money in your bank account, a house, these things, right? Tangible things, rather than how you feel in your life, how you feel about yourself, how you relate to life and the world. And do you feel that your life is meaningful and valuable, right? That's not something as quantifiable, right? That's not necessarily a direct correlation with the place that you live. That could be part of it, but that's not the totality of it, right? And this perspective really does stem from a culture obsessed with productivity, with achievement, and with the idea of a definite end game. And so, ironically, this striving constantly can create cycles of dissatisfaction because we become hyper fixated and focused on this one goal. And if we get there and then we realize that that ain't it, oh no, so better keep striving for the next thing, right? Like a mouse on the hamster wheel thing. And this isn't conducive to really arriving into your body, into this moment, into what is happening in your life truly, behind the false self, behind the busyness. You know, there's beauty. And the present moment, sometimes it ain't beautiful. But we got to face it, right? In order to be able to see what is holding us back from our authentic self, what is taking us away from living purposefully, right? Not just striving for a thing. There is something also to say about how this whole notion of finding oneself, it can make people feel really pressured to attain an idealized version of themselves, as if the current version of them is not good enough. Have you felt that? Have you been consumed consciously, or maybe less consciously, by this notion that you are not enough and there is a better, bigger, more successful, more purpose-oriented version of you somewhere over there in the future? And so you strive towards that in some way, but it seems like as soon as you progress, it moves further away. And so you don't arrive, right? Because you can't. But if you're told that you're supposed to arrive, likely you'll feel inadequate. You'll feel like you failed. Do you feel that in some way? Is this something that touches you? Have you felt like a failure because you're told that by 20 or 25 you're supposed to have everything figured out? Yeah, I feel you. So in shifting our perspective to purpose being a path, then sure, there are things that we can work on with ourselves, but it's coming from a place of, I am here to live my most purposeful life, which is in alignment with my soul and my authentic self. And that is purposeful for me. Unmasking, unlearning the toxicity and aligning to my authentic self, right? Not something that I need to find and grasp at over there, but something that I must go within and shine from within, right? You can see I speak more about that explicitly within the video, Illuminate Your Path from Within. And so from that point, there's nothing wrong with you, but you love yourself enough to know that, yeah, you've been doing some stuff which isn't actually in alignment with your authentic self. You've been playing out some really unhealthy relational dynamics, or you've been in the victim mindset, or you've noticed that you're self-sabotaging. So this isn't coming from a place of, I'm not enough, I need to go over there, but hey, let's just take a moment and look at that, and maybe I can unravel some stuff, okay? So that's purposeful. Do you feel the difference there? You might have seen the symbol of the Ouroboros, which is essentially the snake eating its own tail. And you could dive into the symbolism of this for, from many different angles, okay? But for this video, it's almost like this snake eating its own tail can represent this fixation on reaching this end. But the more that they do that, the more that they consume themselves in the process, reducing the totality of their experience. Okay, that's not the totality of what the Ouroboros represents, definitely not. And it's definitely nuanced and maybe more metaphysical than that, for sure. But that is a layer that we could draw upon, okay? That is a meaning that we can project upon this symbol, and so reflected back to us is the thing that we need to see. Also with the Ouroboros, there is a dissolving of linear time as well, funnily enough. Because where is the beginning and where is the end? Linear time dissolves. And then what is revealed is circular time. And in countless indigenous cultures, they acknowledge that time is not this linear thing that's moving that way with the arrow at the end, but actually past, present, future are all here, morphing around the center of time, which is you, right? Time evolves. Time is intimately connected. Time is connected with the both seen and unseen forces. And so this allows for a cyclical approach, moving through the seasons of life, spiritual renewal, life, death, rebirth. It is a cycle. Okay. And it's not just like, if it wasn't that, then where would the seasons be? It would just be summer, 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 right? And it's not that. As soon as time is linear, as soon as anything is put as linear, as soon as your development is quantified, it is open to comparing, contrasting, and if you don't catch yourself, there is an entry point for wounding to shine through of the places where you didn't feel loved and seen and appreciated, and therefore you got to try and prove yourself. I'm striving to be in alignment with my purpose to avoid pain. Negative motivation, right? So moving on, the path of unfoldment is purpose, right? It's a continuous emergence. And so what I want to speak to here is how life is a constant state of becoming. You are a human being, not a human bee. A human was, a human being. You're a verb, so to speak. You're an action, you're a becoming, okay? And so in every moment, we are in some sense the sum total of our interactions, our choices, our relationships, and these things guide us in a unique direction to various individuals. Also go check out my video about how the company you keep shapes your reality, touching on the power of resonance. So purpose then becomes an ongoing emergence, not a fixed entity to sort of discover, because in each moment, it's like the snake peeling off its layers and then growing more skin and peeling off the layers, or each interaction is like putting a book on your bookshelf. And so in 10 days or years' time, there are going to be more books on your bookshelf, which will inform the intelligence of you, the diversity of you, the tapestry of you. And everything in our environment, the company we keep, in relationships, in experiences, in what we consume as media, as books, as music, as games if we play them, or whatever else, right? The seen and unseen. This also, in a higher octave, doesn't necessarily, because we don't have to just speak about it in the negative. I'm not, as I've said a few times, this channel is really what I've discovered even as I film more videos. Like, I'm attempting to dismantle the way that the linear mind tries to then grab onto a thing, label it, and then boom, black and white, in group, out group kind of thing. So the company you keep can also have, in a higher octave, the potential to reveal facets of our purpose. Okay, our purpose being our authentic self, the process of our becoming, guiding us along the path rather than this single fixed point, which is stagnancy, which is death in some sense. So the shift in thinking, the shift from finding a purpose, just like picking up a thing, here's my purpose. Now what, right? Compared to becoming purposeful, as in, how do I relate to the seemingly inanimate objects which actually do have a consciousness in alignment with animist worldviews, which is an ethic of relationship, right? Acknowledging the personhood of all things, which is a total counter to the colonialist, capitalist mindset, which is all about materialism, reductionism, things to just use and abuse, right? So then we could say that there is a shift from materialism to animism, right? If we want to put it in some different words, okay? And this just transforms the whole journey of life, because it's like the purposefulness, the process of becoming is like, okay, well, how do I relate to the world? How do I relate to life? So for an example here, let's say there's someone who pursued a really high caliber corporate career, believing that this was their purpose because mum and dad said that, this is the best choice because you earn a lot of money, and with money comes safety, and safety is success, and this is your most successful life, and if you're successful, you've fulfilled your purpose. And what this person discovers is that they feel unfulfilled. They've earned the money, they've ticked all the boxes, but this gnawing, void-like feeling inside has just gotten bigger and bigger. And no matter how many things that they acquire, no matter how many places they arrive to, they still feel empty and unfulfilled. Why? Because for that person, this is most likely not in alignment with their authentic self, the true self, their heart, their soul. And from a meta perspective, maybe they had to go through that in order to realize and remember who they truly are. So that we don't see this as, oh, well, that's bad then. No, that is a thing. That is a consequence of an effect. Sorry, that is an effect of a cause. They arrived at that position as the sum total of all their experiences and their relationships and so on. And then they had a light bulb moment. And at that node, there is a choice point. Do I continue, or do I answer the call to go on an adventure into the unknown and face my demons, face challenges, but ultimately come out the other end with the truth of who I am and be able to then show up in the world as that. So then let's say that that person goes like, you know what? I feel shit about my life. I do have a lot of money, but I feel shit about my life. What am I going to do? I could go to work again, or I could do something maybe a little more radical and take off even just 6 months of work. Not just pull the plug, pull the pin straight away, but let's have a breather and go on a seemingly so-called purposeless adventure or travel. And in doing that, in facing the unknown, they might discover a connection with themselves. They might learn things about themselves. They might remember things about how they used to love, like cooking or learning languages or connecting with people. And this adventure then starts to bring up even the pain of moving away from that, of being deceived by a story that their authentic self wasn't enough and they had to go do that thing. And that could radically reorient their life and bring them to a vocation, so to speak, bringing them further along the path in a way that they couldn't have envisioned before had they just stayed at that one place, right? A stagnant destination, thinking that was it, but not realizing that it wasn't. You feel that? So purpose is a process. The path is like a river, constantly moving and reshaping itself, dynamic, morphed by obstacles, redirected sometimes. And it's also not the river itself. It's just the way that the river moves, the way that it flows. Does that make sense? I hope so. I will move on because my brain likes to try to unpick every little thing, and then I imagine that sometimes that isn't always useful. So, purpose is a process. You are not just the body. You are a soul that is working with this body. You are existing in a physical way, in an emotional way, in a mental way, and an energetic, spiritual way. Connected to purpose, connected to something higher, connected to soul. Not that higher is worse than lower, but a vibratory state, right? Higher is less dense. That's what it means, really. So moving on to the paradox of control and freedom. So similar to what I touched on before, how many people in an attempt to stay on the right path are actually heavily controlled by societal and cultural expectations. They align their lives with the definition of success of another or of an institution. They align their life with the definition of happiness that someone else made up and someone else told them that that's the way. And then they lose sight of their own essence. So paradoxically, when we actually feel less in control, that's actually us accessing a higher order of control, so to speak, a higher order of order. That makes sense. You know what I mean? Which unravels the path. So instead of this feeling lost as being chaotic, the paradox is that in that chaotic state, the higher order emerges. That's what I'm saying. And so people who feel lost without any clear path may, ironically, find more freedom due to that lack of clear, defined, rigid direction. And that allows them to follow that authentic path. And that allows them to realize that the path unfolds as they walk the path. It unfolds organically. The path isn't just the one exact path. All the gazillion bricks are laid right out in front of them, and they can see that that is the end goal, and there's a path, that's it. No. As each step is walked, the path reveals itself. And it might bend, and it might go up, it might go down. You might freaking walk through a waterfall and go up, and you might have to climb a tree at one point to continue up, and then at the top of the tree there's like a flying fox, and then you woo down the flying fox, and then you land on a beautiful boulder, and you jump into the lake, and then you swim in an underwater cave and up, and it's an adventure. So people who feel that they're wandering, and that this wandering is a quote-unquote bad thing because society says that's bad, you might actually be more aligned with the true nature of the purpose than those who are rigidly adhering to a path that was chosen for them. As I said before, chaos is not disorder, but a higher form of order beyond our current understanding. Purpose, when viewed as a path, inherently includes elements that are outside of our control. And then embracing these moments of unpredictability, learning how to adapt and be flexible, learning to surrender because you realize that you can't possibly control everything. In that, deeper truths are revealed about the nature of life itself and the nature of you. You can't know absolutely everything about yourself by staying in one place stagnant all the time, all the same things all the time. There is medicine to habits, to ritual, to discipline, to what's what I'm looking for? Consistency. In a way that, granted that it is generative, okay? So I'm not shitting on discipline and commitment and doing the same thing, not at all. Repetition is also the mother of all learning. Granted that it is something generative, that your energy is being drawn to. Where attention goes, energy follows, okay? So is the way that your energy is being invested, is that bringing something generative to your life? Is that, like what I'm trying to say with the generative side of things, is are you growing? Are you evolving? Do you feel that from last year to this year you have evolved as a being? Or do you feel that you are stagnating, right? And the stagnancy is what the capitalist XYZ frameworks grasp on, rely on. They need you to do that so that it survives. It does not care about the individual. That system doesn't give a shit about your purpose. It wants to survive. So it needs you to just be that numb thing, the cog in the machine. Okay, but as a cog in machine, there's stagnancy there, right? Because it's limiting you. But you aren't that, not entirely. You are so much more multidimensional, multifaceted, complex, beautiful, nuanced. And so there is a fear a lot of the time when we accept that in seeming chaos, in the feeling lost, in the wondering, in the unknown, in the mystery, therein lies the seeds of our potential. That's scary because the pain body is like, no, my safety comes from me knowing and understanding and feeling like everything's in control. Compassion to that. But just know that that is a linear purpose as a destination rather than purpose as a path mindset. And it will only get you so far. Carl Jung said the words, quote, "In all chaos there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." End quote. I adore this quote. I read it again the other day, listening to one of his books about the archetypes. So interesting. So yeah, this quote came at a good time for this video. There's also the symbol of the tarot Fool card. And people often see the Fool as this like, oh, silly, ruled by folly and doesn't know what's going on. But in other perspectives, like the fool is the master. Why? Because the fool is open to the unknown. Therefore, is open to purpose as a path, is open to the great mystery of life, and that is the seed of evolution. Within the so-called chaos lies profound wisdom, constantly guiding us to deeper understanding of ourselves and of the nature of reality. Things that you can't often learn if everything is controlled to the finest degree, because from the unknown emerges something new. From the unknown, we can create something new. We can learn something new. We can discover something new. We can adapt. And that keeps us growing. So how comfortable do you feel acknowledging that just because things are controlled, it doesn't mean you're actually more safe or free? It might feel like that makes complete sense. You're like, got you, Sophie. Like, we're good. And that feeling of like, I've always known this, is that feeling of remembrance. And often when truth is spoken and it touches something that our souls already know, we're like, it's like I'm remembering something. And just allow that feeling, take like a mental snapshot of that feeling. And that feeling will allow you to feel more safe, quote unquote safe, right? More comfortable in the uncomfortable, more comfortable in facing the unknown, the great mystery, and trusting, surrendering, knowing that the path will reveal itself as you walk, and that your path is your purpose, and your purpose is your path. So I want to move on now into a bit about purpose through relationships, human and otherwise. Relationships, both human and non-human, act as mirrors, guides on our path of purpose. People, not just as humans, but plant people, stone people, house people, star people, river people, ocean people, iPhone people, people that are places, right? And so that people in all their forms that we connect to reveal deeper layers of our purpose over time, showing that purpose is relational, not isolated. Your destiny, being your purpose, being your path, doesn't fall outside of the things that you're connected to. It doesn't fall outside of, or it isn't disconnected from your ancestry. All those things are woven together in a highly intelligent way in order to be the foundation, the platform for that moving forward, for that path. Relationships often reveal how they're influencing you also over time in cycles experienced together. So even someone who might feel triggering to us at the beginning, or someone who really challenges us and it brings up a lot of wounding, or we feel triggered, right? Initially, that might be like, oh, we'll try to label them as bad because we don't feel good. When in actuality, in time, as the cycles unravel, what you realize is that it was your shit coming up in order to be transmuted, let go of, so there's more space for the light of your true self. And where we would once label things as, oh, it is this or it is this, you realize the very nuanced and unpredictable nature of relationship as well. It's an alchemical process, and that's not always comfortable. Growth is not always comfortable. Facing the unknown is not always comfortable. And the process of this realization aligns with purpose because it's an evolutionary path. Even with non-human kin, let's say that in your dreams you keep seeing a black horse, and maybe there are some months in between this black horse dream, but it comes again. And you're invited to think, maybe there's a reason that this repetition is happening. Maybe there's something that's trying to be communicated to me here. And because I've been able to adopt more of an animist relational ethic, then I'm not just going to look over this as some coincidental, meaningless thing. But actually I'm going to try on that maybe this is something that I can relate with. And so you might ask yourself, okay, who is this horse to me? What does this represent? Whether it is a literal or symbolic meaning, it can reveal something intimately tied to our ecological and ancestral roots, to our path, to our purpose, to our essence, beyond the confines of the linear human ambition. How does seeing the horse in your dream, hello computer, are you okay? Okay. Anyway, Spirit's just woo! Thank you. Thank you very much. How does even this popping up right now, what is that trying to do? Boom, the unexpected. Adapt. How is the horse in your dream contributing to that linear capitalist frame? Well, from that frame, it is meaningless. But from another frame, oh, whoa, I'm getting access to a guide, or I'm learning how to decode symbolism, which is the universal language. Cool. It broadens the tapestry of who you are. And in that path, you learn that it's not just about the seen. It's also, as you walk the path, it's also about the unseen forces, the unseen realms, right? So, purpose is part of a larger mystery. And what I want to speak to here is how your purpose isn't an individual thing. It actually connects us to a vast interconnected web of intentions, of relationships, and there are themes when we see it from outside connected to the collective unconscious. Each of us plays a role. Each of us is aware or unaware. Each of us is contributing to larger movements or patterns, even if we don't realize. Carl Jung's notion of the collective unconscious speaks to how purpose can also be seen as a call from the collective psyche, which influences our choices in ways that transcend personal desire. Why were you born when you were born, in the family that you were born to, why were you going to that school? Why did you meet those people? Why are you interested in the things that you're interested in? And that's sort of more the point here, that there's a lot of gunk in the collective unconscious. And maybe that call that emerges from the depth of the collective psyche is whoa, we need folks like you who are able to face this, to be the change maker, to be the full stop of this stuff. And for you to live purposefully, the call from the psyche is oh my God, I just feel so weighed down by the way that I'm seeing people relate in the world, by the way that I'm seeing the men now being demonized, or whoever being demonized, right? And that call, right, the part of the collective unconscious, which is that wounded part that wants to be seen, you feel it, and then it can inform a next step, which does transcend just pure individualistic personal desire, right? It's still you, it's still your essence, it's still your lane, but it is a more, what's what I'm looking for? Almost like a virtuous or higher moral path, so to speak, where the path, as you keep walking it, helps you to see that what you actually really care about is not so much of what you used to care about, What you care about is expanding to include the greater ecology that you're connected to, the community, the land, the country that you're on, right? Your living in purpose starts to expand to include systemic understanding of things and realizing your place in that web, and thinking about how you show up and how you don't want to show up anymore, and how you want to be of service and share your gifts with the world, right? So the purposeful way of living is a growth mindset. It expands, okay? It isn't just the stuck, stagnant thing which stays the same. And so in doing that, the collective unconscious then works with our personal unconscious, right? I'm not saying that you should just dissolve into the collective, not what I'm saying, but know that they are interconnected. You can't disconnect them. You know, there's a lot to say with the saying of, you know, you are not the ocean, but you are a drop in the ocean, and the ocean is within the drop. That's a really simplistic way to, you know, define that saying, but for our terms, I hope that illustrates what I'm trying to say. But really, there is paradox and mystery in the whole notion of purpose, because it isn't just that thing that you can grab and then that's it, done. Next. Because it does require embracing paradoxical things, embracing the mysterious, recognizing that in order to reach clarity, you go through a veil of elusiveness, of not knowing. And as we navigate our path, purpose is sometimes less about certainty and more about trust in the unknown. And the trust in the unknown is the trust in the divine, which allows us to access surrender. Surrender not as a passive victim stance, but surrender as an empowered, uplifted stance, knowing that there are things outside of your control. You can do your best to disentangle from what you realize is not healthy, from what is not generative, knowing that you can do what you can do, and then you can move forward. When we're lost, sometimes that's when we find ourselves. And that can be uncomfortable for the parts that so desperately want to know everything. But again, it can't. No matter how hard it tries, it cannot know everything. And to even say that you can truly know who you are, like, no. Who we truly are is infinitely large and infinitely small. So to sum up, purpose is an evolving, non-linear path involving continuous engagement with life's mysteries and involving an ethic of relationship. Your purpose is not a standalone, isolated thing outside of the web that you are a part of. Your purpose is not purely informed by all of that, but it does bear an influence on your path. Of course it does. How could it not? Though it can still inform you and teach you and guide you what isn't your essence and what is. Teachers along the path may not always feel good. Lessons along the path may not always feel good, but they are necessary in order to grow, and that is living purposefully. Because to really truly live purposefully, I really believe that it requires us learning how to be authentic, learning how to be creative in our mindset, okay? Not just I can paint really well, but how do I approach life? How am I navigating life from a problem-focused way or a solution-focused way? Am I approaching life able to breathe in the beauty of existence even if I feel down? Creative in the sense that I can see life through a different lens. I can put on different glasses, so to speak. I have different perspectival vantage points, so I'm not stuck or in an echo chamber. All of that is creativity. And so to embrace a journey then We then learn to embrace the twists and the turns as part of a larger, unknowable dance. But trust in there comes when we are more okay with that unknowable dance. We can accept that a little more. We can accept, therefore, on a micro level, things that come up in our life that challenge the known. That's the thing, right? If we can accept the great mystery of life, that it is fundamentally unknowable, and that's okay, and we're still alive and we can still do our thing, then zoomed in, when life presents a challenge, you're able to face it and be like, all good. You are a rock in the river and the river will do its thing. It will move around it, it will flip over it, but I'm not trying to delete the rock. I'm not trying to delete the challenge or the mystery. It's a part of it. Okay. I embrace the journey. So if anything from this video, may the meta message shine through to let go of rigid expectations of acquiring some purpose as a destination or a thing, and instead live purposefully, being open to the dynamic flow, dance of life, and trusting that each moment offers its own meaning within that larger unknowable dance. And it might not always feel good, and it might not be clear initially, but you living purposefully means that you stop leaking all your energy out and looking for someone else to tell you what to do or give you permission or make you feel worthwhile. But you living purposefully is you decide and do the work to trust and know that you are enough. Not that you will stagnate, therefore, but you love yourself enough to grow. You love yourself enough to walk that path, even if you don't know exactly where it's going. You love yourself enough to be disciplined so that you have the practices which create your solid foundation so you can walk the next step. Right? So living purposefully can look a gazillion ways. But may you realize that it is the path. Your purpose is your path. It's not the thing. It's not the one destination. That's all part of your path. So, I'll leave it as there. And may you feel more willing to embrace a reality that purpose is not something you find, but something you become moment to moment. All right. Sending you lots of love. If you like this video, hit that like button for me. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you want to be updated when I release new content. Videos come in every week. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. If you like this video as well, let me know in the comments. I like to read them. Okay, bye for now.